Long ago, in the little town of Nazareth, there lived a girl named Mary, and she married Joseph. And they had a baby, and the baby's name was Jesus. And Jesus grew up, and he knew and loved God, just as other children love a good father. Jesus learned the laws that God gave to his people a long time ago. You know those laws, called the 10 Commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your mind. This is the greatest and most important commandment. And the second most important commandment is like it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. One night, while the disciples were with Jesus, those were the men who traveled with Jesus and learned from him, they lay under a shady tree in an olive grove called Gethsemane. And Jesus was dragged before the leaders of his people and accused of doing wrong things. People were paid to tell lies about Jesus. What had Jesus done? He had come to us with stories and wisdom. He came to heal people and to forgive people. He came to make people friends with God. But not everyone welcomed the things that he did or the things that he said. There was anger and spite, and Jesus was condemned to death. Jesus was condemned to a cruel death, to be nailed to a cross of wood. Soldiers loaded the cross onto his shoulders, and although he had done no wrong, he was ordered to carry his heavy load throughout the town. Jesus walked along the narrow streets of Jerusalem, struggling with the heavy cross. The pavement was rough beneath his feet. The guards hurried him without pity. He lost his footing and he fell. Jesus' mother Mary was in Jerusalem, following her dear son as he walked to a death he did not deserve. Mothers love us forever. Jesus struggled once again with the heavy cross. The guards grew impatient with his slowness. They saw a strongly built man come in from the country, Simon of Cyrene. "Here, you carry the cross for this prisoner," the soldiers commanded. And so Simon carried the cross for Jesus. Jesus could barely see the way ahead. His eyes were clouded with sweat, and he tried to wipe it away, but only smeared it with the dust from his hands. Then a woman stepped forward and gently wiped his face with a cloth. The guard urged Jesus forward, for his sentence had to be carried out without delay. But who can walk calmly to the place where there will be pain and punishment? Once again, Jesus fell. The women of Jerusalem wept to see Jesus so cruelly treated. "He hasn't done anything wrong," they cried. "What's happening is not right. It's not fair." Jesus looked at them sadly and said, "Do not weep for me. Weep for yourselves and for your children who have to go on living in these troubled times." Jesus and the guard approached the hill. This was to be the end of the journey. Trembling, Jesus fell once again. At the place of execution, the guards took from Jesus even the clothes that he was wearing, and they gambled among themselves to see who would have his tunic. Jesus was left with nothing. Then the guards laid Jesus on the cross and hammered iron nails through his hands and his feet, and they hung him up to die, while others mocked his suffering. For several hours, Jesus hung upon the cross. He asked God to forgive those who had treated him so cruelly. He asked his friend John to be a son to his mother. He pleaded with God to tell him why he had been left alone to suffer. And then he died. A man named Joseph from the town of Arimathea saw Jesus die. He was a wealthy man, had been a secret follower of Jesus. He asked Pilate if he could take Jesus' body and give it a proper burial. Joseph had asked that a tomb be prepared for his own death, a low cave cut in a rock with a large round stone to roll in place as a door. As evening fell, Joseph and some of Jesus' friends hurriedly wrapped the body and laid it inside with the door rolled shut. And then they hurried home because it was their weekly day of rest. The Sabbath was ready to begin. Now, when the day of rest was over, some of the women who had been followers of Jesus returned to the tomb. They brought with them spices to prepare his body for burial according to their traditions. As they approached, they saw that the stone was rolled away. The body was no longer inside, and instead they saw two angels. "Why are you looking among the dead for someone who is alive?" asked the angels. "Jesus is not here. Jesus is risen. He is not here. He is risen." The women could hardly believe the angel's words. They ran to tell the disciples the astonishing news. At first, no one believed what they said, yet the tomb was certainly empty. Then Jesus came and met with his friends, and they saw him and they touched him. So it continued for 40 days. And then Jesus' friends saw him being taken up into heaven. Soon afterward, they began to tell the world the story of Jesus, the story of the cross. There's a part of the story when wicked and cruel people seem to be winning. Then God changes everything, bringing life and love that will never end. Here is what one of Jesus' followers wrote to his friends. "Dear friends, let us love one another, because love comes from God. Whoever loves is a child of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. And God showed his love for us by sending his only Son into the world so that we might have life through him. This is what love is. It is not that we have loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the means by which our sins are forgiven." So this story is probably one of the hardest stories to understand. But just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that you can't listen to it again and again, because each time you listen to it, you'll understand a little bit more and a little bit more about what Holy Week means and about the story of the cross. Thank you so much for paying attention. I hope you have a very good day. Blessings.